Hi, everyone. I'm author Essie Reed, and I'm here today to host a panel of authors. We're doing a discussion today with indie authors. It's so exciting to hear about their journeys, what they're working on. I'm an indie author myself, and so I always love when I can get together with other authors. My latest book, The First Wives, came out in September, and its follow-up book comes out in March. And thank you so much for joining us today. So we're going to start. I have 4 authors with me. We're going to go around and everyone's going to introduce themselves. Diane?
Thanks so much for having us today. I'm really excited to be here. So I am Diane Billas. I am a writer of queer YA novels. My latest book is called Superficial. It's Marvel meets National Treasure. And then my debut book, it's called Does Love Always Win? It's a YA sapphic romance.
Hi, I'm Erica Rose Eberhart, and I write queer fiction, primarily fantasy, and my debut was the Elder Tree Trilogy. It all came out within the course of a year, so I have 3 lovely books, and Vanquish just came out in January of this year, with the first 2 books, Tarnished and Diminished, having come out in 2025.
Hi, I'm Avery Timmons. I primarily write young adult, any genre, but my debut novel came out in September of last year. It's called Thicker Than Water. It's a young adult fantasy, vampires, werewolves, fairies, all sorts of that stuff. And then my second book is coming out in April, another young adult fantasy titled Maimed, again with fairies and everything. But I also write romance, contemporary, and yeah.
Hi, I'm Courtney Reece, and my first book was Meet Me in the Woods. It came out in July of last year, and it's a YA paranormal kind of romance. Kind of goes in the vein of like Buffy, maybe a little bit of Vampire Diaries. I also write mostly speculative fiction.
Wonderful. So nice to meet all of you. Thank you for your introductions. So this is going to be fun. So we've got some questions that people had wrote in asking about, what it's like to be an author. So I put together this group thinking it would be so much fun to really kind of get to know more about your writing styles, your rituals, what you like about being an author or writer. So that you can help people who maybe just be starting their journey, or maybe they've been writing for 10 or 15 years. Maybe they're a little stuck. They want to try something new. So it's always nice to see, writing can be so individual. You do it on your own at home, not with a group usually. So it's fun to kind of get out there and find out what is everyone else doing? What does their writing look like? So speaking of that, I'd like to know what everyone's writing ritual looks like. So, do you write in the morning or in the evening? Do you need music? What does your perfect writing day look like? Diane, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I am a morning person. I get up at like 5:20 every morning, and I have to exercise. That's what I need to do to clear my brain. And then after that, I eat my breakfast, and that's when I start the writing. Sometimes in the beginning, it's just kind of like maybe doing some of my author social media stuff just to kind of get the juices flowing. And then I get actually into the writing or editing from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And that's then when I start my day job. I realize I have to do it in the morning. I'm never going to get to it because I do writing for my day job as well. So that's when I'm the freshest in the morning.
I kind of am all over the place with writing. It really depends on like what's going on in my life. I balance doing writing, being a stay-at-home mother, and then I also am a contractual social media person for a local bookstore. So my hours are all really varied. And I am a morning person, so during the summer months when the sun is rising so early, I have a tendency to get up around 5 and do like 5 a.m. writing before everyone else wakes up. But generally, if I'm writing, I kind of hyper focus while I'm doing whatever project I'm working on, and I will write like all day, all night until I get that task done. And then I take months of a break, and I'm currently in a months-long break.
Yeah, I'm also a little all over the place. I'm for sure an afternoon, evening writer, because I edit for my day job, and I work from home a lot. So a lot of the times, I'm already on the computer, I'm already at my desk, kind of in that headspace of working on writing on words. So then I'll just switch over to whatever project I'm working on at the time. And I don't write every day, but when I'm really trying to focus on a project, I try to aim for about 500 words. And I feel like by the time I hit 500 words, then, I'm in the groove. I might end up writing, a couple thousand. And if not, if, I struggled to reach 500, then at least I got some words on the page and I can deal with them later if they're bad. But, at least I got something done. But like Erica kind of said, that sometimes I just don't do anything for months. It really, it really varies. It really depends on whether I'm in the drafting process or whether I'm just trying to plot. I'm always thinking about writing, but I'm not necessarily writing every single day.
Yeah, I'm kind of all over the place as well. Like Diane, I do have to write first thing in the morning, like physically write first thing in the morning. So honestly, at night when I go to bed, I play the story out in my head, like the next chapter that I'm going to write. And I sit there and I just think about it. And sometimes I write in a notebook right before I go to bed, like turn back on the light and like, okay, I'm not going to remember this. Then first thing in the morning, I have to write. If it's not in the morning, it's out of my head by afternoon. And then I also really like to go on long walks and think about plotting. I think the plotting and the thinking take longer than the actual writing for me. So I like to get out in nature and really sit there and think about what I'm going to write. And then it makes the physically writing part, it makes that go a little bit faster.
That's awesome. Thank you all so much. It's so interesting to me to see how other people do it. And I really like, Courtney, that you take walks and plot in your head. I should add that. I don't think I take enough walks. So, all right. So that kind of leads us into our next thing. You guys all just shared stuff that I'm going to take a little bit of that advice and maybe add it into my writing ritual. So what are some things that you have heard over the years or since you've started writing that, bits of advice that you've heard from other people, other authors and writers that you've taken to heart, things that have worked for you, or any maybe little advice that you have that you think would help someone starting out on a writing journey? Diane, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so back in 2018, I attended an in-person writing conference. It's the first time I ever did anything like that. I really didn't know any writers, but I really wanted to take this writing thing seriously. While I was there, I met another writer, and she told me about Twitter. And like, I had a Twitter account, but I was just using it for personal. She's like, no, there's writers Twitter. You should get on there. And I did, and I'm so happy. That is just like where I met a great community and other writers, and now I'm on social media, other places. And in my debut group, I had just met so many awesome authors that I connect with. And Eric and I already know each other from our publishing house, but we talk all the time, and other authors. I just can't imagine going through this journey without other people around.
Something that I didn't implement until the last 5 years. I used to be, and I think that this is very much a take it or leave it advice, because I feel that everyone has their own method. But I was a pantser. I would sit down and just throw anything down on paper. And then I went to graduate school for creative writing and English, and they forced me to plot out a novel against my will. But it unfortunately really worked out very well for me. And now I can't write without plotting first, before I do any writing. And the plotting can look like a bunch of like various different things. Sometimes I will sit there and I will plot out exactly what is happening in every single chapter of the book. And it makes it very easy to write it when I know exactly what's going to happen, what will happen in each chapter. But other times the plotting would be just more like taking notes and jotting down information about the characters and their backstory and their histories so that I have it on hand when I start to write. But plotting has definitely helped me a lot. I was in deep writer's block for years and years, and then it wasn't until I started to plot out Tarnished that I finally broke through the writer's block that I was dealing with. So I think the advice that like I would give regarding that is, if you have a particular way of writing and it seems to not be working in that moment, if you're stuck in writer's block, maybe try to do the opposite and see how you go with that.
So for me, I mean, it sounds pretty simple, but once I really kind of implemented it, it really changed things for me. It's just like write what you would want to read. Because I went for my bachelor's in creative writing, and so for those first year or two that I was in college, I'd always wanted to write a novel, but I'd never really, figured out what I wanted to write a novel about. And would start and stop projects because I just found that I was writing them, and I was like, ugh, my heart isn't in this, I was trying to write what I thought other people would want to read. And it wasn't until I came up with the idea for Thicker Than Water, which takes place in Chicago. It follows a college student, and because I'd always kind of wanted to read more young adult set in college, because I feel like, a lot of those young adult themes are still so prevalent with slightly older people. It doesn't always have to be high schoolers. Um, and so then just one day I kept thinking about that, and I was like, I could just write that myself. And so, kind of like Diane said, I had joined Twitter by that point, and I was reading what other writers were saying, and the tips and advice that they were giving on there. And I saw someone say that or talk about how that had changed their perspective on things. And so once I implemented that myself, and once I just started writing projects that I was really excited about because I would want to read it when it was done, that's what really changed just my enthusiasm for writing.
Okay, mine's pretty simple. It's write every single day. Even like Avery said, even if it's 500 words, I use an app on my phone that's like, I don't know, word counter, word tracker, whatever it is, because I really like to be competitive with myself. So I'll put whatever, like right now I'm doing 2,000 words a day. Usually it's like 1,000 words a day. And then I'm competitive with myself. I'm like, can I get even over 2,000 words? But even when I'm not feeling like I'm going to get more than 500 or 1,000, I'm still going to sit down and write every single day, because I found out very early on, if I do my mood writing where like, I'm just not in the mood, I'm not creative right now, then I take a week break or a 2-week break, and it's so hard to get back into the flow of things. So as long as you can just show up and write and just know, like, I might throw out all of these words, like these might be garbage, but I'm going to do it every single day. I think sometimes going back to the days where you're like, I wrote garbage, you go back to it and you're like, wow, okay, I've got something there. So it always works out.
That's great. I also like to write every day, so it's nice to hear someone, that do that too. I think that was a really great point that you said about, it not really mattering what you put on the paper, just putting things. That's kind of a theme that all of you said, just sitting down and getting the words out, breaking through the writer's block, not worrying too much about things, just getting the words on the paper. So that kind of ties into the next thing with this compulsion to write. Is it because you love writing? You love being a writer? I mean, I assume so. So you have stories to tell. Do you want to share a little bit about what you love about being an author, about being a writer? What calls you to that profession? Diane?
Yeah, I was thinking about this question and I just can't not write. Even like I love it so much. It makes me happy. When I'm not able to write, either I'm sick or something like comes up, I can just feel that there's just something missing in my life. And then when I come back to sit back when I can write again, it just feels like I'm home. I don't know. That's as simple as I can say.
A lot like what Avery said, I wanted to write what I wanted to read. I've been writing stories since I was a little kid, and as a child, I viewed writing stories as a way to make like my wishes come true, because they were suddenly a material thing in the real world and not just in my head. So I still do that. I have an idea and I like want to see it. I want to see it become something of substance. So writing out these ideas helps me do that, and being able to have my books out in the world and then have readers come to me and say how much a scene that might mean a lot to me means to them, it feels all the more satisfactory. So I particularly, I love that. Something that has meant a lot to me that I was able to produce into the real world is actually finding meaning in other people. I think that is, I love doing the writing before, but now having that experience, it makes it so much more joyful.
Yeah, kind of going off of what Erica said, and then my answer for the last question, is that I've been a reader. I've always loved reading, and so it's pretty much as simple as, I was devouring all these books, creating my own stories in my head, and just, kind of thinking, oh, I wish someone would write a story about this, or like something I wanted to see represented from my life in a book, and then thinking, oh, I can just write it myself. So that's really why I became a writer and why I love it so much is, a story can stem from something as simple as, like, for example, my whole life, I was in band and I wanted to see more books about kids in band or kids who play instruments. And then I was like, oh, I can just write that. I can do that myself. Um, and so, yeah, it's just so special to be able to create those stories. And, I would have them in my head anyway and have those ideas. So it's almost like, also like Diane said, I can't not write. It's just always been a huge part of me.
Yeah, I was going to say I've always written since I was a little kid, and I've always told stories and I've always made up stories in my own mind. But I think as I've gotten older, the complexities of being a wife, being a mother, being a woman, there's so many emotions that you're able to put into something tangible. So female rage, like that is like, burning right now. And so to be able to put that on the page and make it something tangible is just really powerful.
Absolutely. Very well said, all of you. I love it. It really is a passion. And we all have to nurture our passions to feel whole as a person. And it's such a gift, I think, being a writer, when you reach that point where you're not afraid to share it with others, it can be a gift too. So thank you for that one. And then, so let's talk a little bit about those times when you sit down. It is our passion, it is our gift we want to share, but sometimes we struggle. Erica has mentioned writer's block. Courtney mentioned, if she doesn't write one day, she might be 2 weeks before she writes. So what do you do when you get to those points where you're not feeling creative, you're not feeling like you really want to sit down, or it's not worth the effort? Is there anything that you can do? Any tips or tricks for people out there that are facing that same thing to kind of overcome that, to get back in? I know we mentioned a few things, but if you want to share any additional ideas, Diane?
Yeah. Sometimes when I'm working on a project and just kind of like coming to a roadblock and just feeling not creative, I step aside, and then I'm a musician. So I just start playing the piano and kind of like letting my emotions run that way. And sometimes I just find that like my brain is thinking more about what I want to write then. It's like another way of being creative. So that's one of the ways that I deal with a writer's block.
Like I said earlier, I've had a lot of writer's block. I went to school for English, I graduated, and I immediately plunged into the severe writer's block up until I went and got my master's degree in my early 30s. And during that time, it felt like I really lost a part of myself, since my whole childhood and teen years had been made up with writing. And all I could really do during that period of time that made me feel a little bit connected was that I continued to read and pleasure read. And I actually finally began to write again, but it was creative nonfiction, which was my first paid published gig was with creative nonfiction. So it worked out really well. But now that I'm back into writing and I'm publishing fiction, when I take breaks, when I'm not feeling creative, right now I'm in a self-imposed break after, releasing 3 books in a year. It's been incredibly exhausting. And I know that I will burn out otherwise unless I take that break. And I am continuously reminding myself that breaks can be okay. Taking a step back and not creating when you don't want to create can be okay. I use this time to try other crafts, other creative pursuits. And I also use the time to read books about writing, learning different tips and tricks and like advice from other writers. I really enjoy diving into those while I'm taking these breaks, because I notice it helps kind of churn my brain a little bit, and it's getting the creative juices flowing to the point where I'm like now eagerly awaiting the end of my break so I can sit down and start writing again.
Yeah, so kind of similar to what Diane was saying, music is huge for me. I struggle a lot with, I mean, not only those writer's block moments, but also like just getting started. Like sometimes just the motivation to sit down at the computer and just get started. Um, but when that happens, and when I know, I really want to work on something, but I just feel like I can't, I will generally make playlists for the projects I'm working on or specific characters. And I will listen to those playlists. And, like right now, the book I'm working on is very like grief heavy, very dramatic, a lot of big emotions. And so I'll listen to songs that kind of put me in the correct headspace to tackle that project. Um, and just get me in that right headspace to sit down. And then a lot of the times I'll be excited by that point because I'll be like feeling those emotions from the music, and I want to put those emotions into the story.
Yeah, for writer's block, obviously, like I'll just read. I'll read whatever genre, whatever it is. But also, what I like to do is watch TV, and I like to watch TV with the subtitles on, and I like to watch reality TV with the subtitles on. I think it's really interesting to study humans and the way they communicate with one another in these really crazy settings. Something about it just like gives me some kind of spark to keep going and to look at things from different perspectives. So sometimes when I'm like really burnt out on just books, like I'm like, I just need to step away from books for a while, reality TV or TV in general, but with the subtitles on so that you can like read it like it's dialogue from a book really works well. But I also think that even more than writer's block, that the comparison game, the I'm not good enough, we get trapped in that part of our brain as well. And I think just having like one really close writer friend, like you don't need to go like super big and have all these big group chats or anything, but I just have like one really good writer friend that like I can throw the text to, and she's like, girl, stop, you're great. And so that really helps too.
Oh, those were all wonderful tips and tricks. Thank you so much. I'm going to file some of those away for myself on next time I'm facing some writer's block. That actually kind of goes well with the next thing. So besides like tips and tricks, do you have any like actual tools, like tangible things that you guys use? Maybe there's some software that you really love for writing, or some websites that are your go-to. Erica, you mentioned craft books. Maybe there's a few you want to name. Avery, you mentioned making playlists. That's pretty cool. Do you use Spotify, or what do you use? So Diane, do you want to share some of the resources that you have?
So my big resources are other authors. I'm in a YA group chat, and also we meet monthly on Teams. And it's been so helpful just hearing what they do and websites that we should check out. Or I'm trying to get an agent, so they tell me about openings, and it's just really nice to have everyone's brain, and we just kind of like help each other out. It's just invaluable.
Agreeing with Diane, having writer friends is so essential. Being able to ping ideas off of them, sometimes just talking something out. If I'm stuck with a plot point or something, the very fact that I'm talking it out to them, they don't have to say anything. It'll just like kind of the what I have to do pops up in my mind. And having a good support group that are all writers is really, really helpful. But otherwise, I keep a bunch of like dice for like D&D at my desk, and sometimes if I'm stuck, I'll roll to get an idea and be like, oh well, what should this thing be? I'll roll, and I'll assign numbers to ideas. I also will do the same with tarot cards. And I'm big on, I have a traveler's notebook. I have a bunch of little notebooks inside of it, and I take a lot of notes of ideas, or just like quotes or songs that like stir some type of creative like energy in me. And whenever I'm starting to write a new book, it gets its own notebook, and I put every single little tidbit of information that I want to remember into that specific notebook. And that notebook will live with me all the way through to publication. At least it did. The one notebook I had for the Elder Tree Trilogy did, and I'm hoping the other notebooks I have will live with me until those books hopefully see store bookshelves. But yeah, so I have a lot of like hands-on trinkets that help me with writing, and I'm kind of lost without them.
Yeah, so I primarily use like Google Drive, Google Docs for everything. I'd say my whole like plotting, drafting, making notes, that whole it's kind of organized chaos, because I will just throw something in a Google Doc, whether it's a sentence, just something, and then I will put it in a folder within a folder. So that's my favorite part of Google Drive, is I can just make folders within folders within folders, and make sense to me. I have my notes, and then in one folder, and then I have my actual, I generally draft chapters in documents by themselves, and then stitch it all together at the end. So everything can kind of be organized all in one space. So I definitely am a Google Drive truther. And then, yes, I would say sticky notes are also my big. I am a big sticky note person. If I think of something during the workday, I have to jot it down right there, and I'll stick it up somewhere so I can see it and I don't forget it. So yeah, it's kind of a little bit everywhere, but I know where everything is, and as long as I can see it, and it's kind of my own organized chaos, but it works. So.
I actually did start drafting on a Google Doc and doing Google Drive, but I am a scrivener person now. I go to Scrivener. I really like it. I like that you can break down by chapter, and it has a ton of different things that you can do on it that I don't even know about, but it works for me. I think you can make it as complicated as you want, or you can have it pretty bare bones, and it works really, really well. What else? Oh, Canva. I bet all of us use Canva. I think that having some knowledge of Canva is a great thing because you can use it for mood boards or anything like that, but also it can help you with advertising and social media later on down the line.
Well, those are all great resources. Thank you so much. And so we're winding down to our last question here. This has been such a wonderful group. I've really learned so much from all of you. Thank you so much. I'm hoping now, this is a big ask because I know we tend to be pretty private about our current projects that are not published, or they're, we're just starting them out. We don't maybe want to even share the title of it yet, but if you are willing to, we would love to hear about what you're currently writing. Give us the little elevator pitch, and maybe if you don't want to tell us a little bit about what you're currently writing, maybe something that you're proud of that you wrote. Diane, you want to start with that?
Sure. I am working on 2 projects right now. One is written. It's a YA sapphic murder mystery set in an indie bookstore. I'm querying that, trying to get it published. Something that's important to me is when I'm querying something, I also have to be writing something, because rejections are very hard. They come in fast and sometimes 3 at a time. So I need something to get my mind off that. So I always am writing something. So I am about 42,000 words into an adult sapphic rom-com set on a cruise ship. This is my first adult book, so I'm really excited about it, and I'm crossing my fingers that something happens with both my projects.
I'm kind of in between 2 projects right now. Like Diane, I'm querying and also starting a new project while I'm querying. So I'm querying a young adult dark fantasy called Blood Like Ink, and it's about a fairy tale that kind of unleashes in the real world, and a boy who is trying to gain control of the plot and works with a girl who has ink for blood, and it's a lot of fun. I really love it. I hope that I'm able to find an agent who will love it just as much as I do. And the new book that I'll be working on is going to be a new adult dark fantasy about a group of writers who go to a writing retreat, and they think that they are gaining their creative luck from muses, but really all they're doing is sacrificing to a demon. So we'll see how that goes.
I also have a couple things in the works right now. But my main project is a young adult paranormal about a 16-year-old girl who meets the 17-year-old theater ghost after she auditions and gets the lead role in her first ever show at school. And then nobody else has ever seen this ghost before, so things start to unravel about how he died. And she is the only one who can possibly help prove his murder and help him pass over. So that's been really fun to write because I've never really explored ghosts before. So this is my first ghost story, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. And then the second thing that I'm working on right now is a sequel to my debut, Thicker Than Water, to kind of left off on a little bit of a cliffhanger. So it's been a lot of fun. It's in the perspective of actually a different character. We have a different narrator for this one than the first book. So that's been a lot of fun delving more into his head, and so kind of different projects, but both in kind of the speculative realm. So it's been fun.
Yeah, I'm doing a sequel for Meet Me in the Woods right now. So I've finished drafting, doing self-imposed edits before sending it off. And then also I'm writing my first horror. And right now, tentatively titled, it's called Oh Dear, but DEER. And it's about 3 generations of women who turn into deer and wreak havoc on a town.
Well, I love that. All of your projects sound amazing. Please let me know when they're done. And if you need a beta reader, I'm around. And but thank you all so very much. This has been such a joy to get to know all of you more and your writing processes and what you're working on. I'm sure our audience has loved hearing about you. The links to your websites and where they can find you, your social medias, should be in the comments of this video. So please make sure if you've watched this video that you go and you follow Erica, Diane, Avery, Courtney. I know that they would love to connect with you and share more helpful writing tips that they have, and you can support them as indie authors. So thank you again for watching the Writers Workout Conference, and that's it. Thanks, guys. Bye.